Lanterns sway above the festival square like captured moons, their golden light spilling over masks, silk, and the hungry eyes of wolves. I stand in their glow with my hood low and my pulse too loud, the bitter smear of moonroot still burning the back of my throat. For 7 cycles that poison has kept my heat caged, my scent drowned beneath ash and clay, and as the drums begin to thunder, I whisper the same prayer I always do. Let me stay invisible. An omega without a scent is beneath an alpha's notice, beneath a king's gaze. But tonight the full moon climbs higher than it ever has, pale and round above the palace spires, and something inside me answers it. Heat slicks through my veins, slow at first, then surging, tearing through the herbs like claws through paper. The music blurs. The crowd falls away. I feel my scent break free, wild and sweet, racing ahead of me through the lantern light. Around the square, alphas go still. High on the moon-drenched balcony, the Alpha King rises from his carved throne, lifts his head, and inhales. His gaze finds mine, and I know, with a single breath, that I am no longer hidden. Moonroot stains everything, my fingers, the cracked rim of the mortar, the warped boards beneath my bare feet, all of it carries that sickly gray smear, as if the herb is already trying to erase me before I even step outside. I press the pestle down harder, grinding the dried roots into a powder so fine it clings to my breath. The bitter scent crawls up my nose, sharp and earthy, promising the same thing it has for 7 full cycles. Hide me. The attic is low and cramped, the ceiling beams so close I have to keep my shoulders hunched. Winter air seeps through the crooked window, curling around my ankles, but sweat beads along my spine. The heat has been there all day, a quiet ember in my blood, waiting. Every scrape of stone on stone seems to drum along with my pulse. Finer, I whisper, as if the root can hear me. You have to be finer. I tip a trickle of water into the mortar. The powder darkens, clumping, turning into a paste the color of old bruises. When it's thick enough to hold its shape, I set the pestle aside and dip 2 fingers in. The first touch burns. It always does. Moonroot doesn't like to be on skin, but that is the point. Pain distracts. Pain drowns. I strip off my shift and sit on the edge of the narrow bed, the straw mattress rustling in protest. My body in the glass shard nailed to the wall is all sharp angles and hollow places, a woman no one would look at twice, if not for what lives beneath her skin. I try not to meet my own eyes as I reach for the clay bowl again. Neck, first. I smear the paste along the hollow where my scent rides strongest, dragging it down over my throat until it dries in a dull, mottled band. Then, behind my ears, under my arms, the soft spots along my ribs, where the glands lie close to the surface. The cold sting deepens, burrowing, until my wolf recoils from it, snarling inside my chest. I ignore her. She has never understood caution. She remembers a different life, the one before my father weighed my worth in scent and bloodline, and promises made over goblets of spiced wine. Such a bloom she will be, he had said, his voice rich with pride that never once sounded like love. I can still see his hand, heavy on my shoulder, keeping me in place as the visiting lords assessed me like a horse at market. Her first true heat will fall under your roof, my lord. You have my word. I had been 13, knees knocking beneath my feast dress, the hall too warm, the torchlight too bright. The lord in question had smiled with thin lips and hungry eyes, his gaze tracking the line of my throat as if he could already smell the woman I would become. My wolf had pressed up against my ribs, furious. I had swallowed it down along with the fear. That night, when the guests finally slept, I had gone to the kitchen, found the jar of moonroot the healer kept for stubborn fevers, and taken it all. The healer died the following winter. My father never knew who emptied the jar. I drag myself back from the memory and reach for the strip of linen waiting on the bed. The cloth is clean, bleached as pale as bone. I dust it with ash from the small brazier, rubbing it between my fingers until the fibers turn gray. The ash will catch any trace of scent that escapes the paste. I wrap the cloth tight around my throat, then cross it over my chest, binding it down until each breath feels shallow and controlled. Another strip goes under my arms, around my ribs, pressing the smeared herbs deeper into my skin. By the time I knot the last piece in place, the attic smells of smoke and bitterness. Nothing else. Good. I pull my plain festival gown over my head, a simple thing, faded blue, patched at the hem where it drags across stone. No bells at the sleeves, no embroidery to catch the lantern light. My cloak is worse, threadbare and dark, the hood deep enough to swallow most of my face. I look like what I have worked so hard to become, a shadow in the corner of every room. Still, my hands tremble as I fasten the clasp. The bells of the lower quarter begin to ring, low and distant. First bell of the moon festival. The city will already be gathering in the square, lanterns lifted, drums ready. The air outside my crooked window glows faintly, the sky sliding from purple into that clear, cold blue that belongs only to nights when the moon will show her full face. My wolf stirs again, restless beneath the bindings. She pushes a single thought against my mind, simple and furious. Mine. I know what she means. The moon. The night. The alpha whose howl carries farther than any others. The one whose gaze I cannot afford. Not ours, I whisper, pressing my palm flat against my bound ribs until the ache forces her quiet. None of this is ours. We only have to survive until dawn. I take up the remaining moonroot paste and, against all reason, swallow a fingerful. The taste is vile, bitter, and metallic, like sucking on a rusted nail. It scrapes down my throat, leaving a trail of numbness in its wake. My stomach twists, rebelling, but I force it down with slow, measured breaths. Hide me, I think again. Smother it. Smother everything. For a moment, it works. The ember in my blood dims, as if a cold hand has closed over it. My shoulders ease. My vision clears. Then the bells ring again, closer now, echoing up through the rafters, and heat prickles low in my belly in answer. No. I snatch my small pouch from the peg by the door needle, thread, a few coins earned from mending torn cuffs and tired hems, and shove it beneath my cloak. The ladder down from the attic creaks beneath my weight. Below, the rest of the tenement hums with life. Children shrieking as their mothers wrestle them into clean tunics, men arguing over whose turn it is to carry the festival wine, someone laughing too loudly to be entirely sober. No one looks up as I slip into the narrow corridor. That is another blessing I have cultivated well. The girl who pays her rent on time and keeps to herself draws no whispers. I make for the back stair, avoiding the main door where the landlord likes to post himself like a gatekeeper, sniffing for opportunities. Outside, the air is sharper, carrying the first threads of incense and roasted meat from the square. Lanterns already bob along the street, paper skins painted with wolves and moons and twisting vines. Children run past me, masks tipped back on their heads, cheeks flushed from excitement. Their laughter scrapes across my nerves. I keep my head down and walk. With every step toward the festival, the ember inside me swells. It is not ablaze yet, not what it could become, but it licks along my veins with a sly, ascending warmth. The moon is not even fully risen, and already my body answers a call I have spent years denying. Too soon, I mutter, my voice lost beneath the growing noise of the crowd. You are bound. You are caged. You will stay that way. Still, the warmth rides higher, brushing the underside of my ribs, coiling low in my belly. The moonroot's burn dulls its edges but cannot banish it. I taste iron at the back of my throat, the old fear rising with the heat. By the time the upper towers of the palace come into view, silver against the darkening sky, the streets have swollen with bodies. Cloaks brush mine, shoulders jostle, scents crowd thick and heavy in the air. Sweat, wine, cheap perfume, the musk of wolves half shifted in anticipation. I keep my breathing shallow behind the strip of linen, letting the ash and herbs do their work. I am a seamstress on her way to earn a few extra coins, mending spilled seams and torn ribbons. I am forgettable. I am safe. The first lantern arch appears ahead, its paper moons glowing warm gold. Beyond it, the square opens like the heart of the city, all color and sound and dangerous joy. I step beneath the arch, the light washing over my hood, and the warmth in my blood answers with a slow, defiant surge. Despite the bitter paste drying on my skin, despite the bindings, despite every prayer I whispered in the attic, my heat has begun to rise. Lanterns bloom over the square like a second, nearer sky. Paper skins painted with wolves and roses and pale moons sway from their poles, their bellies full of warm light. The air beneath them is thick with smoke and spice, with roasted meat and spilled wine, and the wild edge of too many wolves pressed together in celebration. Drums throb at the center of it all, a slow, steady pulse that climbs up through the bones of the city and into my feet. I let that rhythm carry me along the edge of the crowd, cloak drawn close, sewing kit tucked snug against my ribs. This is where I am safest moving, useful, forgettable. A girl with a needle is just another tool for the night, like the torches and the casks of ale. Mind your hem, love, I murmur to a laughing girl whose sleeve has torn at the shoulder. She barely hears me over the music, but she stops long enough for me to catch the rip with quick, practiced stitches. Her perfume is cheap and sharp, but there is no true heat in it, no pull. Her wolf is still sleeping. Lucky creature. Blessings of the moon, she breathes, already turning back toward her friends. And on you, I answer. But she is gone. I move on. Around the central bonfire, dancers whirl in bright ribbons of color, skirts and cloaks flaring as they spin. Some are half-shifted, claws flashing at the ends of fingers, teeth glinting white when they throw back their heads to howl. Children leap at their heels, wooden masks bobbing, their own voices high and shrill. Sparks rise, fleeing toward the real moon climbing slowly above the palace. The ember in my blood flares in answer. It is still small, held in check by moonroot and linen and sheer will, but every beat of the drums feeds it. Heat strokes along my spine like a palm, slides low and heavy into my belly. My wolf stirs, pressing restless paws against the inside of my ribs. No, I tell her. Not here. Not tonight. She answers with a wordless push of defiance. Seamstress. A voice calls, close to my ear. I turn to find an older woman frowning down at a torn cuff, her husband already swaying on his feet beside her, tankard dangling from thick fingers. Can you fix this? He thinks he is still 20. The man grunts, half-heartedly offended. The dance floor broke first, not I. I manage a smile and gesture toward the nearest lantern, where the light is stronger. Hold still. I will make you respectable again. My hands know what to do. Needle. Thread. Cloth. In and out. Smooth and sure, while I keep my breathing slow and measured behind the binding at my throat. Being this close to others has always been a risk, but it is also a shield. When everyone's scents crowd together, they blur. Tonight, though, the blur feels thinner. The heat under my skin pulses in small, traitorous beats. Between one breath and the next, I swear I can feel it pressing against the moonroot, testing for weaknesses. Have you heard? The wife says as I work, voice lowered in that way people use when they secretly hope to be overheard. They say His Majesty will descend into the square before midnight, walk among us like any other wolf. The husband snorts. I will believe that, when he dances a jig on the ale barrels. He is a statue on that balcony, a statue who refuses to put a queen at his side. There, that word, king, it sinks into me like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples outward from my chest. It is not the first time I have heard it, not the only night his name has passed between strangers' teeth, and yet something in it catches. Hooks, Alpha King Ronald. The thought arrives unbidden, unwelcomed, complete with the image I have tried so carefully not to form. Tall and broad-shouldered on his high seat, long dark hair braided back from a stern face, eyes like molten metal watching the world from a height I will never touch. I have never seen him up close, only at a distance during formal processions, a dark figure framed by carved stone and silver banners. Even then, his presence had felt like a weight against my skin. What would it feel like to have that weight focused on me? My wolf surges up at the idea, sudden and sharp. Mine, she whispers, the same hungry word she offered the moon. Mine to test. Mine to challenge. Mine to... Careful. I hiss under my breath, though the word is meant only for the creature inside me. The thread slips. I prick my finger, a bright bead of blood welling where the needle bit. I suck it away quickly, heart stuttering. Heat snaps through me in that moment, bright and swift as a struck spark. My scent flares. It is only for a heartbeat, but I feel it, a sweet, rich note bursting free of the bitter veil, flooding the thin air between me and the couple. It is like watching smoke leak from a sealed jar, sudden, unstoppable, wrong. My wolf exults, shoving against the bindings as if this is what she has been waiting for. The man's nostrils flare, his gaze sharpens, the lazy warmth gone. The wife's hand tightens on his arm as her own wolf stirs in alarm. Too bright. Too much. I clamp down, forcing my lungs shallow, dragging my mind back to the paste and the linen and the ash. Remember the burn. Remember the cage. Remember what happens if you fail. The memory of my father's hall, those assessing eyes, that thin-lipped lord crashes over me like cold river water. The flare falters. The man blinks, unsteady again. His shoulders loosen. The wife's grip eases. There, I say. My voice as even as I can make it, though my heart is hammering. I knot the thread with shaking fingers and step back. Good as new. Try not to tear it again. They thank me, pressing a copper piece into my palm before they are swallowed back into the crowd. The coin is warm from their touch, damp with a smear of spilled ale. I slip it into my pouch by feel alone, too busy scanning the nearby faces. That flare was small, barely more than a gasp, but any alpha close enough and sober enough could have caught it. And one has. Near the edge of the square, not 10 strides away, stands a line of guards in dark leather and steel. They are the kings, marked by the silver wolf sigil at their shoulders, each one still and straight-backed despite the chaos pressing around them. Their eyes sweep, heads turning with measured precision, watching for trouble. One of them is watching me. He is broad, his hair cropped short, his jaw shadowed. His nostrils are still slightly flared, as if he has just taken in a scent he does not recognize. His gaze pins me, heavy and assessing, sliding from my hood to the line of linen barely visible at my throat. The ember in my blood tries to surge again. Eager. Reckless. I crush it back down. No. I lower my eyes, ducking my head like any commoner caught staring where she should not. I turn away slowly, careful not to move too fast, not to draw more attention. My feet find the path they know best. Around the bonfire, through the cellar's stalls, into the deeper shadows where lantern light grows thin. Only when a cluster of laughing youths passes between us do I risk a glance over my shoulder. The guard's attention has shifted, his gaze tracking a pair of drunken wolves snarling at each other near a wine barrel. Whatever he caught from me, it was not enough to hold. Relief knocks my knees weak, but the ember is still there, warmer now, proud of its little victory. I press my palm flat against my bound ribs as I slip into the narrow lane between 2 stall rows, letting the noise of the main square fall away just enough that I can hear my own heartbeat. Moonroot, I whisper, as if I can summon the plant with the word alone. Do your work. Yet part of me knows the truth, something has shifted. A name spoken in a crowded square should not send my wolf clawing toward the surface. A single heartbeat of scent should not feel like the first crack in a dam. Somewhere above us, the palace bells begin to ring, clear and bright. The moon is still climbing, and my lies, like the lanterns overhead, are starting to thin. The moon breaks over the palace like a blade. One moment it is climbing, half-veiled in drifting cloud. The next it hangs naked and full above the highest tower, white fire pouring down into the square. Every lantern looks dull beneath it. Every torch throws a weaker light. The stone under my boots seems to hum with the change. The drums feel it too. Their rhythm, steady all night, suddenly surges. The drummers at the bonfire's edge strike faster, harder, sending a pounding beat through the press of bodies. Dancers howl and leap, claws flashing, teeth gleaming. Wolves half shift, eyes burning, letting their joy scrape the sky. Around me, the festival rises into a frenzy. Inside me, something cracks. It is not loud. There is no sound, no pain at first, only a sensation like ice melting around a buried coal. For a breath, I think it is only the heat I have been wrestling all night. Nothing more than a fresh wave breaking over my skin. Then the wave does not recede. It climbs. The ember in my blood roars into flame, racing along every vein, scorching every place the moonroot touched. The cold burn of the herb reverses, turning sharp and hot, as if the paste is being boiled away from the inside. My breath catches. My knees buckle. The square tilts. No. I clamp my jaw shut on the word, biting down hard enough that I taste blood. My hand flies to the bindings at my throat. The linen is damp, slick, as though the heat beneath has turned to steam. For a horrible heartbeat, I swear I feel it shifting, loosening. Not yet, I whisper, though no one can hear me over the drums. Hold. Please hold. Moonroot has always held, through early flickers, through lesser moons, through fear and hunger and desperate, whispered prayers. It has burned and numbed and silenced, obedient as a blade in its sheath. Tonight, it simply gives way. The first true surge of my scent tears through the bindings like a knife. I feel it leave me, a rush that is not air but something thicker, sweeter, spilling out from my skin. It pours into the space around me, flooding the narrow lane where I have taken refuge, then pushing outward, hungry for more room. The bitterness of herbs and ash vanishes beneath it, wiped away in a single, exultant exhale. My wolf explodes upward, no longer a restless presence but a living, howling force. At last, she sings. This, she cries, triumphant. This, the effect is instant. The two young wolves arguing at the end of the lane freeze mid-snarl. Their eyes go wide, pupils swallowing color as they sniff the air like men starved. One of them stumbles, actually dropping to a knee, his hand braced on the stone as if the scent itself has weight. Farther out, beyond the stalls, voices falter. Laughter cuts off. I hear tankards hit the ground, hear the scrape of claws as more than one wolf half shifts without meaning to. The drums do not stop, but the pattern falters, stuttering out of sync as players gasp and inhale. The square inhales with them, then the first howl breaks loose. It is raw and strangled, nothing like the joyous cries from earlier. This sound is need, dragged up from the gut and ripped out through the throat. Others answer, rising in a ragged chorus that shivers along my spine. Wolves clutch at their chests, at each other, at nothing at all, eyes glassy as they search for the source of the scent that has just taken them by the teeth. I stand in the center of it, every nerve burning, the world narrowing to the space of my own shaking body. I should run. Every lesson carved into me since childhood screams it. Run, hide, find a cellar, a drain, a river. Anything to smother this beacon I have become. But my legs will not obey. Heat pins me in place, thick as honey, slow as lava. Each breath I pull in is filled with my own scent, magnified, turned back on me 100-fold by the press of the crowd. It is unbearable and intoxicating all at once, a sweetness so sharp it hurts. Someone crashes against my shoulder, thrown off balance by the force of what they are feeling. I hear someone else retch. A woman nearby sinks to the ground, hands over her mouth, eyes wide with terror and awe. Who is that? A man chokes out, voice breaking. Omega, another answers hoarsely. Gods, she's... He does not finish. He cannot. Because above us, on the highest balcony of the palace, the Alpha King stops breathing. I know it without seeing him. The entire square feels it, the sudden, hushed drop in pressure, the way the very air seems to bow. Heads turn as one toward the carved stone balcony, where court nobles glitter like jewels in the moonlight. Their laughter has died. Fans hang forgotten from fingers. Masks tilt, faces turned toward the tall figure at the center. Alpha King Ronald stands utterly still, as if struck to stone. Even at this distance, his presence crashes over me like a wave. Broad shoulders squared beneath dark armor, long braids tied back from a face cut in hard, ruthless lines. He has always seemed distant, untouchable, a legend draped in steel. Now his legend cracks. His nostrils flare once, twice, the movement sharp and involuntary. His hands curl on the railing until the knuckles gleam white. Slow as the turning of the moon, his head tilts, not in the vague, sweeping way of a king acknowledging his people, but precise, searching. For me, my heart slams against my ribs so hard it hurts. The heat inside me surges higher, spilling up into my throat, my skull, until I feel half drunk on it. My wolf presses forward, tail high, teeth bared in something that is not anger. Choose, she urges. Choose. I choose nothing. I breathe. But the words have no power. Not now. Not against this. On the balcony, Ronald moves. He steps up onto the very lip of the stone as if he intends to leap. Gasps ripple through the nobles flanking him, hands darting out as though they could hope to stop him. He shrugs them off without looking away from the square. His eyes, even at this distance, burn like lit coals. He has found the trail. I feel it when his attention locks fully onto the invisible path my scent has carved through his kingdom. The bond is not there, not yet, but there is something. A tugging line of awareness that snaps tight between us. It drags against my ribs, a hook caught in the softest part of me. He descends, not as a king should, not with measured dignity and guards flanking him in careful formation. He takes the balcony stairs at a near run, long strides devouring the distance between his high place and the square. A few guards manage to keep pace. Most are left scrambling behind, thrown off by the urgency radiating from him. The crowd parts without thinking. Wolves stagger aside, some dropping to their knees as he passes, overwhelmed by the twin assault of my scent and his rising dominance. Children are snatched back by frantic mothers. Merchants press themselves flat against their stalls, eyes down. Somewhere, someone starts to pray. The drums finally fail, the rhythm collapsing into panicked, aimless beats before dying altogether. What remains is the ragged sound of breathing, the rustle of cloth, the scrape of boots and claws on stone, and the steady, unstoppable tread of the Alpha King. He follows the trail without hesitation, every line of his body taut with purpose. His gaze does not drift, does not waver. It cuts through the mass of bodies as if they are smoke, searching, narrowing, closing, closer. Every step he takes seems to tighten the invisible line between us, drawing me forward even as I try to lean back, to sink into the shadows of the lane. My heels hit the wooden wall of a stall. There is nowhere else to go. Hide, I whisper. Useless now. Even to myself, the last of the crowd between us breaks apart, for a heartbeat. We simply stare. Up close, the stories do not do him justice. He is larger than I remembered from distant glimpses, shoulders broad enough to block the lantern light, arms corded with muscle beneath dark leather and engraved steel. His hair, braided and bound, gleams like midnight under the moon. His eyes, gods, his eyes. They are pure, molten gold, lit from within, locked entirely on me, on my bound throat, on the trembling line of my body, on the heat he can taste in every breath. Silence rolls out from where we stand, rippling through the square, until even the whispers die. Wolves hold themselves rigid, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever has taken hold. The Alpha King takes one more step, closing the last of the distance. When his boots stop before mine, the scent of him crashes into me, cold steel and cedar smoke and something older, darker, that sings to my wolf in a language older than words. My knees nearly give out. His lips part, the beginnings of a growl or a question caught there. The crown on his head gleams in the lantern light, and in that suspended, breathless second, I understand with aching clarity why the nobles will call this moment treason against the old order, why they will whisper of omens and ruin and fate. Because my scent, my heat, my very existence has just dragged the Alpha King down from his high seat and set him in front of a nameless Omega in a commoner's cloak. The scent that broke the crown is mine. The world narrows to the space between us. For a heartbeat, we simply stand there in the stunned silence of the square, his golden eyes burning down at me, my back pressed to the rough wood of the stall. The moon is a bright weight on the crown of my head, a cold hand pressing me forward even as the rest of me tries to vanish. Look at me, he says. It is not a command threaded with power, not the full force of an alpha voice. It is rougher than that, hoarse around the edges, as if the words have clawed their way out of his chest. I look because there is nowhere else to look. Up close, Ronald is ruinous. The planes of his face are carved in hard, ruthless lines, but there is nothing distant in them now. His pupils are blown wide, swallowing most of the gold, leaving only a thin, molten ring around black. His nostrils flare again, pulling in my scent like a drowning man takes in air. The cords in his throat stand out as he swallows. I can feel the pull between us, No longer a thread, but a rope, thick and taut. It drags at my ribs, at my wolf, at that small, stubborn part of me that has always refused to bow. Everything inside me trembles. "Run!" the old instinct whispers. "Kneel." The new one answers, "I do neither." My fingers find the edge of my cloak, twisting in the worn fabric so he will not see them shake. My feet stay planted. My heart tries to break out of my chest. Ronald steps closer. The lantern on the post beside us swings gently, its warm light catching on the engraved steel of his chest plate, on the dark braids that spill over his shoulders, on the faint scar that cuts through one eyebrow. His shadow falls over me, swallowing the world beyond his shoulders. He is close enough now that the heat of his body fights the cool brush of the night air. "Moon and marrow," he breathes, so quietly I am not sure anyone else hears it. "How long have you been hiding this?" His gaze drops to the strip of linen at my throat, to the faint gray smear of moonroot creeping above it. His jaw tightens. A muscle leaps in his cheek. Shame flares hot under my skin. Hiding this. Hiding me. "My king." Someone ventures from behind him, voice thin with nerves. "Your Majesty." "The court." He cuts them off without turning. "Stay back." The words crack in the air like a whip. No one tries again. He lifts a hand. I flinch, every muscle tensing, the memory of my father's grip sharp and sudden. My wolf snarls at the reaction, offended, but she is drowning beneath the weight of his presence. I force myself not to cower, not to turn my face away. Ronald does not strike. His fingers close, instead, around the edge of my hood. Slowly, as if he is trying not to startle a wild creature, he pushes the fabric back. Cool air washes over my hair, my ears, the sweat-damp skin of my temple. The lantern swings again, light pooling over my features, leaving me with nowhere to hide. He studies my face with an intensity that makes my bones want to splinter. A nameless attic girl, a runaway bargaining chip. There is nothing special here, I want to say. Nothing worth this. But his gaze moves over my cheekbones, my mouth, the place where my pulse jumps at the base of my throat, and his expression shifts from stunned to something darker, deeper, recognition, not of my identity, of my scent in his blood, of his wolf in mine. "Omega," he says, and this time the word is half growl, half prayer. My knees nearly buckle. The heat inside me answers, surging up in a dizzying wave. My scent thickens, sweetening the air between us until even I can taste it, honey and storm, and something wild. Ronald's eyes close for the barest instant, as if the force of it has struck him. When they open again, the gold is burning. For a terrible, suspended moment, I think he will simply mark me here. He is close enough. My throat is bared. The crowd is already on its knees in everything but posture. All it would take is one step, one hand on the back of my neck, one bite. My wolf arches into the imagined touch. Shameless. My human heart screams. Instead, he does something far worse. Ronald unclasps his cloak. The heavy fabric slides from his shoulders with a muted hiss, the inside lined with fur dark as midnight. For the first time since he descended from the balcony, his chest is bare to the night air, armor catching the moonlight. Gasps ripple through the nearest onlookers. He ignores them. With a quick, decisive movement, he swings the cloak around me. It settles over my shoulders like a storm, heavy and warm and smelling of him steel and cedar and the faint tang of cold mountain wind. The weight is staggering. The collar falls high on my neck, hiding the binding and the last stubborn traces of moonroot. The hem pools at my feet, swallowing my faded gown. In one breath, I disappear from the crowd, not because I am unseen, but because I am covered in the Alpha King's scent and colors. His hands linger just long enough on the clasp at my throat that his knuckles brush my skin. Sparks leap where we touch. I suck in a shocked breath, and the cloak traps it, folds it back into me along with his smell. The square erupts in whispers. She's under his cloak. "Did you see?" An omega. His omega. The word rolls through the gathered wolves like a wave, passed from mouth to mouth, distorted, repeated, growing in volume even as no one dares raise their voice too high. Omega. King. Found. The court on the balcony leans forward, fans fluttering like startled birds. I can feel their eyes like 100 small weights on my skin. Ronald pays them no mind. He turns his head slightly, addressing the nearest of his guards without taking his gaze off me. "Form a ring," he says. "No one comes near her." Steel scrapes as swords are drawn. Boots thud as the guards close in, their bodies forming a living wall between us and the rest of the square. Some are pale, their wolves fighting the lure of my scent even through the king's overshadowing presence. Others avert their eyes entirely, focusing on the crowd instead. "Your Majesty." I manage. The words roughen my throat. You cannot." He finally looks away from my face, but only to scan the ring of guards, judging distances, threats, escape routes. "I can," he says quietly. "And I will." His gaze snaps back to mine, pinning me in place all over again. "If I leave you here," he murmurs, low enough that only I can hear, "they will tear you apart, or steal you before dawn. I will not have my mate hunted in my own square." Mate. The word takes the ground out from beneath my feet. My wolf howls inside me, ecstatic. My human mind reels. Mate. As if it is decided. As if there is no space between this moment and the bite that will bind me to him for the rest of our lives. "There must be a mistake," I say, though even to my own ears the protest sounds thin. "I am no one. I am mine," he cuts in, soft but implacable. That is enough. Terror and something like relief collide in my chest, leaving me dizzy. Around us, the crowd surges, held back only by the ring of steel. I catch fragments of their hissed speculation. "Did you see his face?" He wrapped her in his cloak. "Her scent gods. I thought I would go mad." "Which house is she from?" "No crest. No colors. A commoner." "A commoner?" Then the words tangle and rise, climbing toward the palace like smoke. Even if the nobles on the balcony cannot hear every phrase, they do not need to. They have eyes. They can see their king standing in the middle of his people, with an omega wrapped in his cloak and the square on its knees. Ronald lifts a hand, signaling his captain. "We return to the palace," he says, voice carrying effortlessly across the square. "Now." The captain bows, then begins barking orders. The ring of guards tightens, rearranging themselves into a moving shield. One steps in behind me, another at my side. Ronald stays in front, close enough that the hem of his tunic brushes the cloak he has given me. "Walk," he tells me quietly. "Do not run. Do not look back." As if I could do anything else. My feet move of their own accord, guided by the pressure of bodies around me and the unwavering focus of the man before me. The crowd parts in a rush, some bowing, some merely stumbling away, their faces a blur of awe and fear and resentment. Every few steps, my scent surges again. But the cloak catches it, mixes it with his, sends out a new, blended note that settles over us like incense. We pass under the lantern arch, leaving the heart of the square behind. The bonfire burns on, but the laughter is gone. The drums lie silent. Only the murmurs follow, growing as we climb the broad avenue toward the palace gates. The king has chosen. He has an omega. He has a mate. By the time the great iron gates loom ahead, the words are no longer whispers. They ride the air in full, stunned sentences. Alpha King Ronald has found his omega. The guards at the gate slam fist to chest in salute, eyes wide as they take in the sight of their king and the cloaked figure at his back. One of them, younger than the rest, cannot stop himself from staring at me, nostrils flaring. Ronald's growl is low and quiet, but it is enough to make the young guard drop his gaze at once. The gates creak open. We pass beneath the carved stone wolves that flank the entrance, their eyes turned eternally outward. As the shadows of the arch swallow us, the festival noise dims, replaced by the echo of our footsteps on marble, by the rustle of silk from courtiers hurrying to rearrange their plans. Within these walls, everything is sharper, more dangerous. I clutch the edges of the king's cloak tighter around myself, as if its weight alone can keep the world at bay. Outside, under the cold eye of the full moon, the city hums with the news. By dawn, every house in the kingdom will know. The Alpha King has done what he swore he would not. He has stepped down from his high seat. He has wrapped a nameless omega in his colors. He has found his mate. The throne room of the Moon Palace is built to make wolves feel small. Marble stretches from one end to the other in a pale, gleaming river, veined with silver that catches the torchlight like frozen lightning. Pillars rise on either side, carved into spirals of snarling wolves and coiled vines, their stone eyes fixed on the high dais where the Alpha King's throne waits. The ceiling vanishes into shadow, so tall I feel as if the night sky itself has been trapped above us. I stand at the center of that river, the fur-lined cloak still heavy on my shoulders, my bare feet cold against the polished stone. Every breath I take echoes, every heartbeat feels loud enough to betray me. Around the hall, nobles line the walls like a living tapestry, silk and jewels and subtle, poisonous smiles. Their scents are a thin, perfumed layer over the deeper musk of their wolves. I can feel their attention like 1,000 tiny claws, pricking at my skin. On the dais, Ronald sits his throne. He looks different here than he did in the square. The wildness is banked, the raw edges smoothed. His armor has been changed for a dark, formal coat that broadens his shoulders and falls to his boots. His braids lie neat against his back, crowned straight on his brow. But the gold in his eyes is the same, sharp and hot, fixed entirely on me. I cling to that gaze like a ledge. "You bring an unvetted Omega into the heart of the court on the night of the Moon Festival," one of the counselors says, breaking the silence. His voice is soft and precise, the kind of softness that hides blades. "Lord Veskin, if I remember the whispers correctly, a man whose house crest is a serpent coiled around a wolf's paw. Without consultation, without record, without even knowing her name." Ronald's fingers flex on the arm of his throne. "I know enough." A murmur ripples through the council benches. "And what name does your majesty know?" Another asks a woman this time, draped in crimson, her silver hair twisted into an elaborate crown. For the record, all eyes fall on me. For a moment, my throat closes. The instinct to lie is so ingrained it almost wins. Names are chains, and I have spent years cutting mine away. But the weight of Ronald's cloak on my shoulders and the memory of his voice in the square press against my back. "Amira," I say, and my voice carries farther than I expect. It bounces off marble and stone wolves and the distant painted ceiling. "Born to House Dar." The reaction is immediate. Gasps. A hissed curse. A handful of nobles lean forward, scent spiking with sudden interest. House Dar is small, but old. Its lands border those of 3 greater houses, making it useful for trade, for war, and apparently for marriage contracts. From the side of the hall, a familiar voice slices through the noise. "You mean Amira of Dar?" My father corrects, striding forward as if the marble floor belongs to him. "My daughter. My pledged property." The sight of him hits me like a fist to the gut. He has not changed. The same broad shoulders wrapped in rust-red velvet, the same thick beard streaked with iron, carefully groomed to frame a mouth that rarely smiles without calculation. The same pale eyes that pass over me as if I am a ledger he is balancing, not a child he once lifted in his arms. "Your Majesty," he says, dropping into a bow elegant enough to make the silk of his sleeves whisper. "Forgive my intrusion. I came at once when word reached me that my stray had been found in your city." Stray. The word slides cold under my skin. Ronald's gaze shifts from me to my father, slow and deadly. "This hall is not open to every lord with a rumor," he says. "You will explain yourself very carefully, Lord Dar." My explanation is simple. My father straightens, producing a roll of parchment from within his sleeve. The seals on it are thick red wax, stamped with familiar crests. He holds it up with a flourish. Years ago, while this Omega was still under my roof, contracts were signed, promises made. Her first heat was pledged to Lord Merrick of House Thorn in exchange for lands and soldiers. She fled before that bargain could be honored. But the ink is still dry, Majesty. The bond of law remains. The parchment unfurls, edges fluttering like a slain bird. My stomach twists. I know that contract. I had listened from the shadows as they negotiated it, heart pounding, hands clenched around the railing of the servant's stair. It was the night that drove me to the moonroot jar. "Show it," one of the counselors says. "Let the record see." A clerk hurries forward, taking the parchment with shaking hands. He scans the flowing script, lips moving silently, then lifts wide, anxious eyes to Ronald. "It appears valid, Your Majesty," he whispers. The room hums with satisfaction. "You see," my father says smoothly, "by law, whatever claim may exist now is secondary. She belongs, first and foremost, to House Dar and its agreements." Ronald rises. The hall goes very, very quiet. "Belongs," he repeats, each syllable dipped in frost. Down on the floor, my father pales despite himself. "You speak of an Omega who stands beneath my roof and say she belongs to Parchment." "To the contract, Majesty," someone puts in quickly. "Not Parchment alone. Our kingdom stands on such bonds. If we unmake one because your wolf stirs—" "My wolf," Ronald says, voice dropping, "does not unmake law, but neither will I watch him chained by men who think ink outweighs blood." For a heartbeat, his power pulses out a wave of dominance that presses everyone in the hall down an inch lower, steals breath, stills hearts. My knees bend without my consent. My wolf shivers, wanting both to submit and to bare her teeth alongside his. Then he reins it back, shoulders squaring. "The law will be honored," he says, "and those who feared a reckless alpha exhale. In full, which is precisely why no rival house will claim what the moon has already chosen." A stir, sharper now. Some sense sour with frustration, others spark with interest. "Majesty," Lady Crimson murmurs, tilting her head. "If Lady Amira's first binding is spent on a lesser lord, the balance of power remains as it is. But if she is mated to you, her scent, her line, her heats will be tied to the crown itself." She smiles thinly. "Some might call that an advantage too great for one house alone, especially," Lord Veskin adds, "if her blood proves unusual." His eyes slide past me to the far end of the hall, where an old woman sits slightly apart from the glittering court. Her robes are plain gray, her hair a cloud of white, but every noble gives her a wide berth. A seer, the moon oracle. Her gaze has been turned inward, unfocused, since I entered. Now she blinks, as if waking from a long sleep. "Unusual," she echoes, voice dry as parchment. She pushes herself to her feet with a slow, steady grace. Yes, that is one word for it. The hall holds its breath. The oracle steps down from her raised bench, bare feet whispering on stone. She walks toward me with no hesitation, though her pale eyes never quite meet mine. Instead, she tilts her head, as if listening to a sound no one else can hear. When she stops, we are close enough that I can see the fine cracks of age in her skin. "Child," she says softly, "do you know whose scent you carry?" My mouth is too dry to answer. "It is not House Dar alone," she continues, not unkindly. "Beneath their dull smoke, I smell moonfire. Old blood, the same that walked beside the first Alpha King when these walls were nothing but dreams." A ripple of shock through the room. My father's scent spikes sharp, panicked. "That is impossible," he snaps. "Those tales are stories," the oracle finishes. "Yes, stories written to comfort those who lost what they did not deserve." She turns her head slightly, looking past me to Ronald. "Your Majesty, when the first king took his throne, he did so with an Omega at his side whose heat bound not only him, but the land itself. Her line died out generations ago, or so it was claimed. Yet here," she lifts a trembling hand, hovering just shy of my shoulder. The echo wakes. My vision swims. Moonfire. Old blood. A line thought dead. Pieces of my life tumble into new shapes. The way moonroot never fully silenced my heat, no matter how much I took. The way wolves' heads turned when I was foolish enough to walk too near a crowded hall. The way the moon always felt heavier on my skin than on anyone else's. Ronald's gaze has sharpened to a blade. "What does that mean?" he asks quietly. "For the kingdom?" The oracle's eyes finally focus, and for one breath, they lock with mine. There is pity there, and something like awe. "It means," she says, "that wherever she binds, the old magic will follow. If another house takes her, they can challenge your line with her blood at their back. If she dies unbound, the land's protection falters. If you claim her, The crown roots itself deeper than any parchment can reach. The hall explodes. Voices rise, overlapping. This changes everything. She cannot simply be. House Thorn has rightful claim. Think what a rival duke could do with her. My father is shouting now, words muddled by the roar, insisting on contracts and promises and what is owed. Somewhere beneath the chaos, metal rings softly as a hand rests on a sword hilt. I stand in the center, heart hammering against the king's cloak, feeling the invisible chains twist around me, law, blood, prophecy, all tightening at once. In the shadow of the nearest pillar, movement catches my eye. A man steps just far enough into the light that I see his face. Narrow, handsome, with a scar along his jaw that somehow makes his smile more charming, not less. Duke Corin of House Vale, if I recall the names. His crest is a rearing stag pierced by a spear. He inclines his head to my father, subtle, beckoning. Curious despite myself, I edge a fraction closer, letting the noise of the hall cover my movement. Gold enough to rebuild your keep twice over, Corin is saying, voice smooth as oiled silk, and a seat closer to the capital, your house razed, your debts erased, all for a contract you can no longer hope to enforce against a king. My daughter is not a coin, my father snarls, but even I can hear the waver in it. Of course not, Corin soothes. She is a key, you lack the door. I do not. A chill slides down my spine. You would stand against the crown? My father whispers. I would stand where the old magic stands, Corin answers. And if the king insists on hoarding what should be shared, there are laws older than his throne that allow us to test his claim. The words are poison wrapped in silk. Ancient law. Test his claim. I know enough history, enough whispered tales and forbidden lessons to understand. Trial by hunt. My wolf goes rigid, ears pricked to every word. Invoke it, Corin murmurs. Force him into the old game. If he wins, you lose only what you have already lost. If he falters, your daughter binds to a line that knows how to use her. I stumble back as if struck, breath punching out of me. On the dais, the council still argues. Ronald's posture is taut, his power humming just beneath the surface, his attention divided between law and prophecy, and the nobles tearing at both. None of them have heard what I just heard. Chains in the marble hall. Indeed. Contracts. Blood. Prophecy. And now this. The shadow of a hunt where I will be the prize and the bait all at once. I press my hand flat against my bound ribs, feeling my heart slam against my palm. They will not just fight over where I stand. They will make me run. The decree comes wrapped in ceremony, but it tastes like blood. 3 days after the council session, the rival duke stands in the middle of the marble hall with his crest gleaming on his chest and his smile sharp enough to cut silk. Corin bows just deep enough to be called respectful, then lifts his head and invokes the words no one has dared speak in a century. By right of ancient law, he says, voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. I challenge your majesty's claim. Let the moon decide whose bond is true. Let the hunt be called. The hall becomes a held breath, trial by hunt. The old stories rise up around me, tales of omegas loosed into the dark while alphas gave chase, of crowns won and lost in a single night, of wolves who never returned. I taste iron, the memory of my father's whispered conversation with Corin turning to ash on my tongue. Ronald does not flinch. You would drag my kingdom back into rituals we buried for good reason, he says. You would risk an Omega's life to soothe your pride. Corin's smile never falters. I would honor the law you swore to uphold. If the moon favors your claim, your majesty, you have nothing to fear. Nothing to fear, he says, as if I am not standing in the center of the hall with my heart pounding so hard it hurts, as if my blood is not the field where this law will be tested. The council mutters, divided between outrage and grim fascination. Some are pale, remembering the last hunt and the blood it spilled. Others smell of anticipation, hungry for spectacle and the chance to watch their king prove or fail his worth. Ancient law is clear, Lord Veskin intones, fingers steepled. When an Omega's bond is contested and parchment fails to settle it, the trial may be invoked. The one who reaches her and holds her until dawn binds her. The other forfeits. And if neither holds? Ronald asks, though his eyes never leave Corin's. The oracle's voice drifts from her bench, soft as dust. "Then the land counts her wasted," she says. And the line that let her fall withers. Silence cracks over us like a whip. Corin spreads his hands, faux regretful. "I trust your majesty will not let that happen." His gaze slides briefly to me, cool and assessing, then back to the throne. I feel as if someone has just drawn a circle on the floor around me in blood. Ronald's power surges, then settles, tied down by something older than his temper. "I will not refuse the law," he says at last. "But mark me, Corin. If you invoke this with treachery in your heart, the moon will not be the only judge you answer to." "So witnessed," the oracle murmurs. "The trial is set for the next full moon. The days that follow pass in a blur of preparations that have nothing to do with me and everything to do with me. The royal hunting grounds are inspected, cleared of snares and traps. Packs are chosen, sworn, drilled in the rules of the old rite. No weapons, no blades, teeth and claws only. The Omega may not be harmed beyond unintentional wounds in the struggle. Any wolf who spills her blood on purpose forfeits their own. It should comfort me. It does not, because every time I close my eyes, I see more than wolves in the dark. I see the gleam of metal hidden where it should not be, the curve of a blade pressed against a throat, the kind of dishonor that men like Corin wear like a second skin. On the eve of the hunt, the palace grows quieter as the hour deepens. The feasting hall empties. Music fades. Outside my chamber window, the hunting grounds lie in silver shadow, the trees black against a sky where the almost full moon hangs heavy and bright. The heat inside me has been building all day. It is not yet the inferno that will come with moonrise tomorrow, but it is no longer a manageable ember. Every breath tastes thick. My skin feels too tight. My gown too heavy. The linen binding at my throat an irritant my wolf scratches against. Ronald has stayed away. He said he must. For now that if he spends too much time within reach while the heat climbs, the bond will snap before the hunt, and the law will call it cheating. So he fights his battles in council chambers and training yards, while I pace my gilded cage, counting my own breaths. When the knock comes, it is soft. "Enter," I say, expecting a maid, a servant with water or fresh linens. My voice sounds frayed. The door opens on a whisper of hinges. The scent hits me first. Not Ronald's, no steel and cedar and cold mountain wind, but something sourer. Oiled leather. Old sweat. The faint, metallic tang of weapon oil. Every hair on the back of my neck rises. The man who steps through the door wears plain, dark clothes, the kind any palace guard might choose off duty. He moves like a wolf accustomed to armor, his shoulders rolling with contained power. His eyes slide over the room, measuring, before settling on me. He smiles. It does not reach his eyes. "Forgive the intrusion, my lady," he says, closing the door behind him without turning his back. His hand rests casually near his belt. Too casually. Too near the place a hidden dagger would sit. The Duke sends his regards. He thought it best we simplify matters before tomorrow. My heart lurches against my ribs. "You are breaking the king's law," I say, forcing the words through a suddenly tight throat. "Trial has been called. Any harm before the hunt?" he finishes. "Who will say when it happened? If your body is found in the woods." The moon makes shadows long. Accidents occur. My wolf snarls, slamming against my ribs. He takes a step closer. I retreat, but the chamber is not large enough for true escape. My back hits the carved post of the bed. There is nowhere to run that does not take me closer to him. "Don't struggle," he advises, as if offering kindness. "It won't be pretty either way. This is mercy, in its way. Better a clean throat now than being pulled apart between two alphas come dawn." His hand shifts. Metal glints in the lamplight. My body reacts before my mind does. I twist, putting the bed between us as he lunges. The dagger's point rakes the carved wood where my shoulder was a heartbeat before. He curses, recovering quickly. "You can scream if you like," he says. "Walls are thick in this wing. No one will." The door explodes inward. It does not open. It breaks. Wood splinters under the force of the impact. Shards flying. The assassin staggers, turning just in time for a dark shape to fill the doorway. shoulders heaving, eyes burning with light reflected from the hall. Ronald, he is not dressed as a king now. There is no crown on his head, no formal coat. He wears a simple dark shirt, unlaced at the throat, sleeves shoved up his forearms. His braids are mussed, as if he ran his hands through them. His chest rises and falls in great, controlled gulps of air. But the thing that matters is the growl. It pours out of him, low and continuous, vibrating through the stone floor, setting my teeth on edge. His wolf rides high in his eyes, barely contained. When his gaze locks on the dagger in the stranger's hand, the growl deepens into something murderous. The assassin moves first. He darts forward, not at Ronald but at me, aiming to reach his target before the king can cross the room. His blade flashes, reversing in his grip for a killing thrust. Ronald is faster. He crosses the distance between us in a blur of motion. One hand snags the assassin's wrist, wrenching it aside so the dagger's point slices through air instead of flesh. The other hand slams into the man's shoulder, spinning him toward the wall. Bone cracks. The assassin snarls, half shifting in desperation, claws ripping through his fingers as he tries to rake them across Ronald's chest. Ronald takes the hit, a line of red opening beneath his shirt, but his grip does not loosen. He bares his own teeth, eyes gone wholly gold. "You dare!" he snarls, no trace of human softness in his voice. "In my palace, in my mate's chamber." Mate. The word lands like a brand on my skin, unused to hearing it out loud, claimed so fiercely. The assassin spits blood. "Better dead than chained to you," he hisses. "Better dead than let the crown hoard." Ronald's hand moves. There is a wet, final sound. The dagger clatters to the floor an instant before the assassin's body does, eyes staring sightlessly at the ceiling. For a moment, the only sound in the chamber is my ragged breathing, and Ronald's harsher, barely contained. Then I see the blood. It seeps between his fingers where he clamps a hand over his side, dark and too much. The slash the assassin managed is deeper than it looked, cutting through cloth and skin, spreading slowly across his ribs. The sight punches the air from my lungs. "You are hurt," I say, stupidly obvious. He glances down, then shrugs, as if the wound is nothing more than an inconvenience. "It will heal." He takes a step toward me. The scent of his blood hits my nose copper and something older, wild, and my wolf surges forward, furious and protective in equal measure. "You should not have come alone," I say, anger rising on the back of fear. "He could have." "He did not." Ronald cuts in. "He will not." He stops an arm's length away, as if remembering himself, remembering the thin line we walk. His eyes flick briefly to my throat, to the binding, to the faint sheen of sweat there. "Your heat is climbing," he says rough. "Tomorrow will be worse. So they tell me." I answer, trying for dry, but my voice shakes. I look past him to the corpse on the floor. He broke the rules. Corin broke them with him. "Do you think I will let that pass?" His power rolls out in a small, controlled wave, not aimed at me but at the room, the walls, the very stones. A promise, a threat. "I wanted you to see," he says more quietly, "what they will do, how far they are willing to go to keep me from you. This is not a game of pretty words in marble halls, Amira. They will spill your blood to keep their grasp on power. They will spill mine." My gaze drops to his hand, still pressed to his side, fingers slick and red. "Then why stand alone?" I whisper. "Why not let the law pass me to a safer house, a quieter life? Let me run back into shadow. Let them keep their crown." For a moment, something raw flickers behind his eyes. "Because the law does not see you," he says. "It sees only what you can be used for. Because the moon chose, and for once in my life, I will not turn away from what I want. Because if they take you, they will use your blood to burn this kingdom down from its roots." He takes another step, close enough now that I can feel the heat radiating from him, smell the sharp edge of pain beneath his usual scent. "I would rather bleed for you," he finishes. "Then watch that happen." My throat closes around any answer I might have. Outside, somewhere in the distance, a wolf howls a long, low note that tells me midnight is near. The almost full moon presses heavier through the window, its light painting the floor in silver. Tomorrow night, We will run right into the jaws of a law written by men who never thought an Omega would hear her own worth. Tonight, there is blood on the floor of my chamber and an Alpha King standing between me and the corpse, wounded because he would not let me face those jaws alone. My wolf presses her head against the cage of my ribs, for once not urging me to chase or to flee. "Stay," she breathes. For the first time, I let myself consider that staying might be a different kind of strength. The forest swallows me whole. Moonlight pours through the high branches in thin, silver spears, painting the royal hunting grounds in shards of light and shadow. The air is sharp with pine and damp earth and the faint, metallic tang of the river somewhere beyond the trees. Beneath it all, thick and undeniable, lies my own scent. There is no moonroot now. No linen binding. No king's cloak. Only heat. It roars through me like a living fire, licking along my nerves, turning every inch of skin too sensitive, every breath too heavy. My bare feet pound the moss, lungs burning as I run, branches whipping at my arms. The simple white shift they gave me clings to my body, soaked with sweat. Behind me, a horn sounds once, low and long. The hunt has begun. I do not need to see them to know when the alphas cross the boundary of the grounds. The power that rolls through the trees is unmistakable. The very air tightens, reacting to the weight of their wolves. My own wolf presses to the surface, snarling, not from fear but from something wilder. 2 howls split the night. The first is deep and resonant, echoing off the trunks, threading through my bones. Ronald. His voice is a dark river, steady and commanding, claiming the sky without begging for it. The second slices over the first, higher, sharper, edged with hunger that tastes like rust. Corin. His wolf has a keen, vicious note, eager for blood more than bond. The answering chorus of their pack swells, dozens of voices braiding together into a sound that makes the leaves tremble. I push harder. For a while, there is only running. The forest becomes a blur of silver and black, the ground rising and falling under my feet. I weave between trees, leap fallen logs, duck under low branches that scratch my shoulders. My heart hammers. My breath scorches my throat. Heat and fear churn together in my veins, indistinguishable. Part of me wants to collapse, to curl into the roots of an ancient oak and let the night decide. Another part, smaller, fierce, refuses. Not like prey, that part whispers. Not on my belly. A gust of wind rushes through the canopy, carrying scents with it. Ronald's is first cold stone and cedar and the copper edge of healing blood. Closer than I expected. He is gaining. The bond between us tugs, faint but sure, pulling in the direction he runs. My wolf howls back, silent in my chest, desperate to change course and go to him. Then Corin's scent hits, sour and sharp, threaded with smoke and smug satisfaction. His pack fans wide, trying to herd me, trying to turn my flight toward the ravines where footing is treacherous. I change direction, angling toward the thicker part of the forest, where undergrowth hides roots and hollows. If I must be caught, let it be where the ground favors no one. The next howl is closer, then another sound slides under it, a whisper of weight on bark above me. I freeze just long enough to hear it again. Not paws on earth, boots on branches. The rules of the trial forbid steel and arrowheads and all tools but teeth and claw. But rules are parchment, and parchment has already meant little to men like Corin. A soft twang splits the air. Instinct yanks me sideways. The arrow slices past my shoulder, close enough that I feel its kiss, hot and sharp. It buries itself in the tree trunk ahead with a solid thunk, quivering. A second follows, hissing through the space where my throat was a heartbeat before. I dive behind a thick oak, back pressed to the rough bark, heart slamming. My breath comes in harsh bursts, too loud in my own ears. The heat in my blood spikes, now threaded with a colder fire. Rage. They are not here to claim me. They are here to kill me and call it an accident in the dark. Something in me snaps. All the years of running, of swallowing moonroot until my stomach burned, of binding my own skin to silence my wolf. All the deals struck over my head, the contracts and prophecies and challenges, it all piles up in a single, molten moment. Enough. My wolf surges forward. She does not ask this time. She takes. My spine arches, a tremor ripping through my body. The world sharpens colors brighter, scents layered in dizzying detail. Every leaf, every shift of wind, every small sound stands out. My nails bite into the bark, lengthening into curved claws. My teeth ache, jaw stretching. I brace myself against the tree, riding the wave instead of fighting it. For the first time, I do not shove her down. We rise together. The forest is suddenly clearer. Above, on a thick branch cloaked in leaves, a man crouches with a bow in his hands, an arrow already nocked. His clothes are dark, unmarked by crest, but the set of his shoulders, the cut of his jaw, I recognize him from the shadows of the marble hall. Corin's man, one of the assassins who watched me with cold eyes while the Duke smiled. There is another to the left, moving into position, and the faint creak of a third bowstring somewhere behind. 3. More than enough to end me before Ronald or Corin ever breaks into this part of the grounds unless I move. My scent is still pouring out of me. Thick and sweet. Impossible to hide. I could curse it. Instead, I use it. I push off the tree, not away from them, but out into the open, into a shaft of moonlight where the night can see me clearly. The heat swirls around me like a veil. My wolf flings our scent higher, richer, a deliberate flare that makes my own head spin. Here, I whisper, though the word is for the night, not the men aiming at my heart. Come find me. The nearest archer swears under his breath, twisting to track me. His nostrils flare. Even high above, I see the moment the heat hits him, the way his pupils blow wide, his hand trembling on the bowstring. Not so easy to focus, is it, I think, when your blood is screaming. Another howl cuts through the forest. Ronald. Closer now. The bond tugs like a hook under my ribs, telling me which way he runs. Behind his voice, I catch other howls his pack, answering. Closing in. Good. I run again. But not to escape. I choose my path like a thread through a loom, curving just under the trees where the assassins perch. When I feel one shift above me, following, I veer slightly, ensuring my trail passes right beneath his branch before angling back toward the sound of Ronald's voice. The arrow that flies this time is wild. It thuds into the ground at my heels, thrown off by the archer's shaking hands and the pull of my scent. My wolf laughs, a fierce, delighted sound. Another howl, sharper, furious. Corin, the old law will not save his men if they are caught with steel. They know it. Panic rides their sense now, sour and hot. They move to adjust, to find a cleaner line of fire before the alphas arrive. I give them something better. Ahead, the trees thin into a small clearing where the moonlight falls clean and bright, turning the grass to silver. It is a perfect place for an ambush. Or a reckoning. I sprint into it, heat blazing, then stumble deliberately, dropping to my hands and knees as if exhausted. My hair falls forward, my shift slipping off one shoulder, bearing the curve of my neck. I let my shoulders shake, panting, every line of my body screaming vulnerability. Everything in me coils. Ready, the bowstring creaks behind me, drawn to the cheek. Now, a voice hisses from the shadows. Branches crack on the far side of the clearing. Not from above, from the ground. Heavy, fast, the sound of large bodies moving at a run. I do not need to turn to know who it is. The bond vibrates, flooding me with a stark clarity that shoves the fake exhaustion aside. Ronald's scent rushes in on the wind, sharper now, threaded with the iron tang of the wound he took for me. His wolf, furious and focused. The assassin does not hear it in time. He looses the arrow. I roll. The shaft slices the air where my back was a heartbeat before and slams into fur and flesh instead. A snarl rips across the clearing, furious and pained. Not Ronald. One of Corin's pack, hit by his own allies' shot as they break from the tree line. Chaos erupts. Ronald explodes out of the brush opposite them, no longer a man but a massive black wolf, broader across the shoulders than any I have ever seen. Moonlight slicks along his fur, turning the edges of him silver. His eyes are molten gold, fixed not on me now, but on the archer in the tree and the wolves at his back. His lips peel away from his teeth. The sound he makes is not a howl. It is a roar. The assassins freeze, caught between the alpha's fury and the law they have broken. One drops from his branch, shifting mid-air, landing in a tangle of limbs and half-formed claws. Another turns to flee, abandoning his bow. "Coward!" my wolf snarls. I am moving before I know it, scrambling to my feet, blood singing. Not away toward the one who runs. I dart along the edge of the clearing, cutting him off, letting my scent pour out in a concentrated wave. His head snaps around, eyes wild, drawn against his will even as terror twists his features. "Looking for me?" I say, voice rough with strain and something like exhilaration. He hesitates. That is all Ronald needs. He hits the man from the side, a black blur of muscle and teeth. They go down in a tangle, the assassin's scream cut short as jaws close on his throat. Blood sprays, hot and dark against the pale grass. Another wolf lunges at me, teeth bared, eyes too focused on the prize to care about rules. My wolf answers with a snarl that tears from my own throat. I twist aside, his teeth grazing my arm, then rake my newly grown claws across his face. He yelps, stumbling, blinded for a heartbeat. Ronald is there again, a shadow at my flank, his presence a wall of heat and power. Side by side, we move a rhythm we have never practiced, and yet feels inevitable. When I faint, drawing a would-be killer toward my smell, Ronald crashes into him from the blind side. When he shoulders one away, I slash at exposed flesh, driving them where he wants them. They fall, one after another. Not all of Corin's wolves, those bound by the rules, hang back, uncertain, caught between old honor and new orders. It is the assassins who die first, those who chose blades and arrows over teeth. Ronald tears through them with a ruthless efficiency that leaves no doubt what fate awaits any who try to claim me with anything but the moon's law. When the last of the traitors hits the ground, the clearing is a mess of trampled grass and dark stains. My chest heaves. My arm throbs where teeth grazed it. Warm blood trickling down to my fingers. My shift hangs in rags. Ronald stands over the final body, sides heaving, fur spiked with sweat and gore. Slowly, his great head turns toward me. Our eyes meet. In them, I see my own fury reflected, my own wild relief. No cowering prey, no helpless prize. A partner who chose to turn instead of run. My wolf steps forward, pressing our palm, not paw, not yet against his muzzle. He leans into the touch, a low rumble rolling through him. Not anger this time, but something like approval. Above us, the moon watches, full and bright. In the distance, a new howl rises. Corin's furious and disbelieving as he feels his easy victory shatter. Ronald's head lifts, answering with a howl of his own, calling his pack to witness what has been done here. I stand in the center of the clearing, blood on my hands, heat still raging in my veins, and realize that something fundamental has changed. They called this a hunt. They forgot that hunted things can bite back. Dawn creeps into the clearing like an apology. The wild silver of moonlight softens to bruised blue, then to the first pale hints of morning. The bonfire we never lit is nothing but a circle of trampled grass and dark, drying blood. Birds have not yet found their courage to sing. The forest holds its breath. We stand in the center of it, Ronald and I alone. The bodies of Corin's assassins have been dragged to the edge of the clearing, watched over by grim-faced guards who now smell more of shame than fear. The rival Duke himself kneels in the mud beneath the claws of Ronald's captains, his fine cloak stained, his jaw clenched around whatever curses he longs to spit. His wolf whimpers behind his eyes, feeling the weight of failure. Around the circle, nobles and witnesses ring the space in silks and armor, their faces pale and intent. They came to see a hunt. They stayed to see their law turned inside out. I can feel every one of their gazes. My shift is torn and stiff with blood, some mine, most not. My knees are smeared with dirt and dew. Scratches burn along my arms and thighs, sharp reminders of teeth barely turned aside. The heat that had raged through me all night has burned itself down to a steady, pulsing core, still hot, but no longer wild enough to blind. I am exhausted. I have never felt more awake. Ronald stands a few paces away in his human skin, the transformation completed as the sky began to lighten. His chest is bare, streaked with dried blood and fresh bruises. The wound at his side has knit into an angry pink line, his wolf's healing already at work. His hair hangs loose around his shoulders, damp with sweat and mist. There is nothing regal about him in this moment. He looks like what he is. An alpha who has fought all night for what he refuses to lose. The trial's final horn has sounded. The old law's conditions have been met. I am alive, unclaimed, unbroken. He has reached me. He has held my side in battle, not my wrist in chains, until the sky began to pale. Now, according to every story I have ever heard, he should simply take what he has won, use his voice, command my knees to bend, my throat to bare, sink his teeth into my skin and let the law and the moon and the watching court decide it is enough. Instead, Ronald breathes once, deeply, then he kneels. The dew-dark grass darkens further under his weight as he sinks to one knee in front of me, head bowed, eyes lifted. There is mud on his shins, blood on his hands, the mark of battle on every inch of him. The gathered nobles gasp, some in scandal, some in awe. An alpha king does not kneel. "What are you doing?" I whisper, the words torn from me. "Breaking an old habit," he answers, voice rough with fatigue and something softer. "The law has had its say. The moon has watched. My wolf has chosen. There is only one voice left that matters." He looks up at me fully then, and the gold in his eyes is not the hard burn of command. It is an offered flame, a mirror of Dar, he says, and my name in his mouth is a vow. "The hunt says I may claim you, but I will not bind you because parchment, prophecy, or politics demand it. Will you stand with me? Will you take this bond freely? Not as prey, not as property, as my equal, as far as the world will allow us, and more where it does not." The forest is so quiet that I can hear the distant drip of water from a leaf. Choice. The word lands heavier than any chain ever did. My mind, traitorous, tries to flee from it, racing back to the attic room where moonroot stained everything it touched. To the nights I ground bitter roots into paste by candlelight, whispering prayers to stay invisible. To the day my father weighed my future on a scale beside bags of coin, my life a bargaining chip slid across a table. I think of the marble hall, where contracts and bloodlines were thrown like dice, of Corin's offer in the shadows, of the assassin in my chamber, blade aimed at my throat because my existence threatened the wrong man's ambition. I think of all the Omegas who will never stand in a clearing like this, in torn cloth and drying blood, with a king on his knees before them. If I say no, some part of me whispers, I could fade again. Let the council spin a new compromise. Let someone quieter, safer, smaller stand at his side while I slip back into the cracks of the world. If I say yes, nothing will ever be small again. The faces in the crowd blur. My father's pale, pinched anger, Corin's clamped jaw, the oracle's unreadable gaze, the counselors weighing every breath I take. Then my gaze finds the city walls beyond the trees. I picture the tenement where I rented the attic room, the girls who danced in borrowed ribbons at the festival, laughter bright and careless because they did not know what it meant to have their scent measured and priced, the boys who would grow into alphas under the example of men like my father and the Duke unless something broke the pattern. If I walk away, I will save myself a little pain. If I stand here and choose loudly, I might crack the world open just enough for them to see something new. My wolf presses forward, eyes bright, tail high. "Choose," she urges. This time not for escape, but for claim. I step forward. The dew is cold around my bare feet, soaking the hem of my ruined shift. Ronald's eyes track every inch, his breath held, his body tense as if waiting for a blow. I can smell his fear under the steel and blood, a thin, raw thread. Not fear of the law, or the court, or the rival Duke, fear of my refusal. The realization steadies me. I stop an arm's length away. For a moment, I just look at him, the man who stormed his own door for a stranger in heat, who stood between me and assassins, who walked into this forest knowing it might cost him his crown and his life. The alpha who could have commanded, and instead knelt. The hunted girl in the attic would have crawled to this. The woman in the clearing lifts her chin. "If I bind to you," I say, letting my voice carry, "I do it in my name, not my father's. My heat is not a tool. My blood is not a coin. You will stand with me when I burn, and I will stand with you when they come with their knives." Do you accept that, Ronald of the High Kingdom? His throat works. I do, he says, the words rough and sure. On my life. On my crown. The last of the fear falls out of my bones. I bare my throat. The movement is simple. Head tipping back, chin lifting, hands falling open at my sides. But it feels like tearing down a wall I spent years building stone by stone. The morning air kisses the vulnerable curve where neck meets shoulder. Gasps ripple through the watching wolves. Then yes, I say, and the quiet shakes. I choose you. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then the world moves. Ronald rises, not all the way to his feet, but enough to close the space between us in a single, sure step. His hands come up, one bracing at my lower back, the other hovering just below my jaw, steadying, not forcing. I feel the tremor in his fingers. Amira, he murmurs, a warning and a promise. Yes, I whisper again. His lips brush my skin first, right over the place the oracle touched, the place the moon seems to see most clearly. A question. A final chance to pull away. I do not. His teeth close. Pain spears through me, bright and white, stealing my breath. It is nothing like the ragged tear of an enemy's bite. This is precise, deliberate, a mark carved into flesh, and something far deeper. Blood wells, hot and slick, and with it his essence pours in steel and cedar and mountain wind and the stubborn, unyielding core of him. The bond roars to life. It is not a gentle thing. For one wild moment I feel as if I am being flung through the air, shattered and remade in the same heartbeat. My wolf howls, her voice joining his in a sound that is not heard with ears but with bone. I sense his thoughts like flashes of lightning relief so sharp it almost hurts. Fierce possessiveness, a tenderness he has never spoken aloud. The shockwave rolls out from us. I feel it hit the gathered packs, see the way they stagger, hands flying to their chests as the old magic slams through them. Some drop to their knees, others clutch at each other, eyes wide. The oracle grips her staff with both hands, head bowed, as if weathering a storm. At the edge of the clearing, the air itself seems to thicken. The ancient wards that have slept beneath the kingdom shudder, then flare awake, threads of unseen power weaving outward from the mark on my skin and the bite in my blood. They race along old paths through stone foundations, along rivers, into the roots of ancient trees binding land and crown and omega together, as they were meant to be. Somewhere, far behind me, Corin screams. His claim crumbles like rotten wood. The law he twisted snaps back into place around him, chains of his own forging now wrapped tight. The guards holding him do not relax. Treason does not wash clean just because the trial is over. Ronald's teeth withdraw. He licks the wound once, sealing it, and the pain fades into a deep, thrumming ache. His arms are the only thing keeping me upright as the aftershocks of the bond ripple through me. I sag against him, chest heaving, vision swimming. Easy, he murmurs against my hair. Breathe. I do. With each breath, the frantic edge softens. The heat in my blood settles into a steady, molten river that no longer threatens to drown me. Instead, it feels anchored, as if the wildest parts of me have finally been given something solid to cling to. I can feel him now, even with my eyes closed, a constant, steady presence at the edge of my thoughts. Not a weight pressing down, but a hand offered palm up, waiting. I take it. When I lift my head, the clearing is no longer a battlefield. It is a throne room without walls. Nobles bow, some stiff, others with genuine awe. Wolves lower their eyes. The oracle lifts her gaze to the sky, lips moving in a prayer I do not know. My father stands among them, face ashen, his hand clutching the now meaningless contract under his cloak. He meets my eyes for a single, shaken moment, then looks away. He has lost. I have chosen something he cannot bargain away. Ronald straightens at my side, one arm still firm around my waist. The blood on his skin, on mine, on the grass, gleams dark in the newborn light. Witness, he calls, voice ringing out clear and undeniable. By the old law and the new, by hunt and bond, the crown stands. The omega is mine, and I am hers. The wards have accepted us. Let any who would challenge it face not parchment, but us. No one speaks. The forest, the court, the city beyond all seemed to exhale at once. I looked down at myself one last time, the torn shift, the blood, the faint steam rising from the mark on my shoulder, and then up at the rim of trees where the palace walls wait beyond. I walked into these woods as hunted prey. Heed a curse I tried to drown in bitter herbs. I will walk out as something else. Not a prize won in a game of men. Not a nameless omega smothered by her own fear. A queen marked by moon and blood, who will never again bind her scent to please anyone's ledger. Ronald squeezes my waist, grounding me. Ready? He asks quietly. My wolf lifts her head to the brightening sky. Unbound, unashamed. Yes, I say. And let the new day see me as I am. Before this chapter closes, tell me, where in the world are you listening from, and which moment of Amira and Ronald's story hit you the hardest tonight?